On October the 7th, 2023, Hamas led a stunning coordinated attack which took place on Shemini Atzeret, a Jewish holiday that closes the autumn Thanksgiving festival of Sukkot. Many Israeli soldiers were on leave and the IDF's attention had been focused on Israel's northern border rather than on the Gaza Strip in the south. This action has led to a war which is deepening humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip. Welcome to Standpoint. I'm Ibrahim Shita. The October the 7th Hamas attack drew widespread condemnation from around the world and was denounced for its terrorism against civilians by many, including the governments of many Western countries, as well as those of India, Japan and South Korea. Some foreign ministries, especially those of several Arab countries, as well as Turkey, Russia and China, refrained from condemning Hamas specifically and instead urged restraint. There is a timeline of the Israel-Hamas war.
The assault began about 6:30 a.m. with a barrage of at least 2,200 rockets launched into Israel in just 20 minutes. The barrage reportedly overwhelmed the Iron Dome system, the highly successful anti-missile defense system deployed throughout Israel. As the rockets rained down on Israel, at least 1,500 militants from Hamas and the PIJ infiltrated Israel at dozens of points by using explosives and bulldozers to breach the border, which was heavily fortified with smart technology, fencing and concrete. About 1,200 people were killed in the assault, which included families attacked in their homes in Kiptzim. About 1,200 people were killed in the assault, which included families attacked in their homes and attendees of an outdoor music festival. That number largely comprised Israeli civilians, but it also included foreign nationals. More than 240 others were taken into the Gaza Strip as hostages. At 8:23 a.m. on October 7, the IDF announced a state of alert for war and began mobilizing its army reserves. 2 hours later, IDF fighter jets began conducting airstrikes in the Gaza Strip. On October 8, Israel declared itself in a state of war, and Netanyahu told residents of the blockaded enclave to get out immediately. On October 9, Israel ordered a complete siege of the Gaza Strip, cutting off water, electricity, food and fuel from entering the territory. As Israel conducted airstrikes, international efforts were made to secure the release of the hostages. Qatar, which in years past had coordinated with Israel on the delivery of international aid packages to the Gaza Strip, became the key mediator. But in the first weeks of the war, it managed to negotiate the release of only 4 of the people held by Hamas. Just 3 weeks after Hamas's assault on October 7th, more than 1.4 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip had become internally displaced, and with numbers of Palestinians killed still climbing by the thousands, it had become the deadliest conflict for the Palestinians since the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. On November 1, the Rafah border crossing between Gaza Strip and Egypt was opened under conditions agreed to by Egypt, Hamas and Israel, to allow a limited number of foreign nationals to evacuate the territory for the first time since October 7. On the 22nd of November, Israel's Security Cabinet agreed to a prisoner exchange with Hamas, which was mediated by Qatar and Egypt, that will coincide with a temporary pause in fighting. During the pause, which lasted 7 days, 110 of the hostages were freed in exchange for 240 Palestinian prisoners. In the days after fighting resumed, Israeli forces moved into Khan Yunis, the largest urban center in the south of the Gaza Strip, and the location of the homes of senior Hamas leaders, including Yahya Sinwar and Mohammed Deif. A large number of civilians fled to Rafah, one of the last areas in the enclave for civilians to shelter from the ground invasion. And within weeks, more than half of the Gaza Strip total population had crammed into the city along Egypt's border. By year's end, international pressure weighed heavily on Israel amid the high number of civilian casualties and wide destruction in the Gaza Strip. In early January 2024, after nearly 23,000 Palestinians had been reported dead, Israel announced a change in strategy that will result in a more targeted approach. In late January, a framework emerged through the mediation of Qatar, Egypt, and the United States for a potential three-phase pause in fighting, during which a comprehensive agreement to end the war will be negotiated. The pause will include the release in stages of hostages held in the Gaza Strip and Palestinian prisoners taken by Israel since the start of the conflict. But the framework remained elusive as Hamas insisted on guarantees that a hostage exchange will lead to a permanent ceasefire. Israeli officials in February announced their intent to extend the war into Rafah, leading to concerns internationally over the high humanitarian cost of such an operation. Netanyahu insisted, however, that an invasion of Rafah will proceed to root out the last bastion of Hamas battalions. Netanyahu insisted, however, that an invasion of Rafah will proceed to root out the last bastion of Hamas battalions.
However, as the war continues to worsen the humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip, Israel has faced significant international pressure to allow limited aid into the territory. Now, some opponents of the war lodged accusations of genocide against Israel as the war moved to the southern half of the Gaza Strip. And in December 2023, South Africa sought an injunction from the International Court of Justice to prevent violations of international genocide conventions. The following month, the court ordered Israel to take all measures within its power to prevent genocide, including enabling humanitarian assistance in the Gaza Strip. Now, concerns have also been raised over the potential of the war expanding into the greater regional conflict, particularly as attacks by Houthi fighters on ships passing through the Red Sea disrupted global shipping, and U.S. troops in the region faced attacks that at times proved deadly. But this is not the first war between Israel and Palestine. For one to understand the ongoing conflict, one has to go back to as far as 1948, when the State of Israel was created on land inhabited by both Jews and Arab Palestinians. Hostilities between the two communities that year led to mass displacement of Palestinians. Many of them became refugees in the Gaza Strip. The status of the Palestinians remained unresolved as a protracted Arab-Israeli conflict brought unending violence to the region, and the fate of the Gaza Strip fell into the hands of Israel when it occupied the territory in the Six-Day War of 1967. In 1993, there was a glimmer of hope for a peaceful resolution when the Israeli government and the Palestine Liberation Organization reached an agreement on the creation of a Palestinian state alongside an Israeli state. Hamas, a militant Palestinian group founded in 1987 and opposed to the more conciliatory stance taken by the PLO, rejected the plan. The plan was ultimately derailed amid suicide bombings by Hamas in the 1995 assassination of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. In the wake of the collapse of the peace process, in 2005, Israel unilaterally withdrew from the settlements it had constructed in the Gaza Strip after 1967, and in 2007, after factional conflict within the Palestinian Authority, Hamas emerged as the de facto ruler in the Gaza Strip. The takeover by Hamas prompted a blockade of the Gaza Strip by Israel and Egypt and set the stage for the next decade and a half of continued unrest. Now, the first major conflict between Israel and Hamas, which included Israeli airstrikes and a ground invasion, took place at the end of 2008. Hostilities continued to break out, most notably in 2012, 2014, and 2021. Now, these conflicts were devastating for the Gaza Strip and came at a high human cost for Gaza civilians. But they usually lasted only weeks, resulting in few Israeli civilian casualties and weakened Hamas's military capacity. Hostilities often resulted in ceasefire agreements that temporarily eased Israel's blockade and facilitated the transfer of foreign aid into the Gaza Strip. So let's talk this through by speaking with the Palestinian Ambassador to Nigeria, AbdulLah Shawesh, who is joining me from our Abuja studios to discuss the war that has devastated the Gaza Strip. Thank you so much for joining me, Abu Shawesh.
Thank you so much.
Now let's establish the background to our discussion. The October the 7th Supernova Music Festival was meant to be a fun night of music and dancing near Kibbutz Reim in the Gaza envelope. This was turned into a nightmare when Hamas struck. And the question ever has been, why did Hamas launch that attack, killing about 1,200 persons?
Thank you so much, of course, for having me today. And I would like to say that, of course, I have some problematic issue because I did not hearing you very well. Also, I did not hear the report. I heard some of the reports, but and to do so or to start, I will need to make some correction regarding what did you mentioned in your report, which is Israeli-Hamas war. This is not the Israeli-Hamas war. This is the Israeli war against the whole entire Palestinian people. This war was not erupted only in October 7. This war was 76 years old by the Israelis themselves. Or if you want to go a little back in the history, this war was launched by the United Kingdom against the Palestinian people when they issued the notorious Balfour Declaration in 1917. And in this declaration, they appointed, they designated, they gifted our historical land, Palestine, to the foreigner, whom is the Jewish, the European Jewish, I mean. So that when we talk about the war, this is not war between Hamas and Israel. This is a war launched by Israel long time ago against the entire Palestinian people. And if it is a war against Hamas, how could you justify killing more than approximately 500 Palestinians in West Bank? More than 160 of them is pure children, arrested more than 7,000 plus Palestinians in West Bank, and many other devastating acts from the Israeli occupation in West Bank, not in Gaza. Other issue, you mentioned that Israel was withdrawn from Gaza in
I'm sorry, are you able to hear me, Mr. Shawesh?
Yes,
right. Sorry to jump into your line of thought, but the argument other people will give you is that, because that is the first question I asked you about why Hamas actually broke into that carnival that the Israelis were having, you know, which actually led to the death of 1,200. So that's more like where the whole issue started from. Would you help us clarify?
Yes. I'm coming to your question, but it's my moral and political and diplomatic responsibility to make a very few corrections, while, as I already told you, I did not, unfortunately, hear all the whole report. But again, when you say that Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005, Israel just redeployment from Gaza. It is military occupation, but it is still occupying the Gaza Strip, so that Gaza Strip under the Israeli occupation since 1967. This is the 2 points that I heard it in your report, and I need to correct it. But back to October 7th, the question should be what happened in October 6th. Why no one asked us as a Palestinian what happened to you in October 6th? Half a dozen of Palestinians was killed in October 6th. No one, and it does not make any news in your screens. Not only, I do not mean your personal screens, but it does not make any news all around the world in any screen. Killing the Palestinian in a daily pace, and just during 2023, since the beginning of 2023 till October 6, 152 Palestinians was killed on the hands of the Israeli occupation. Unfortunately, this did not mean, or those 152 innocent Palestinians whom was killed in Gaza and, of course, in the occupied West Bank did not make any news in the screens all around the world. The question is it October 7th? If it is not October 7th, it will be October 8th, October 9th, October 10th, September 1, September 2. By the end of the day, there is an occupation, and there is a fundamental right for the Palestinian people to resist this occupation. It happened in October 7th, but it might be happened, why it was not happened in October 6th, I did not know. It was not happened in October 10, I did not know. But by the end of the day, October 7th, and I would like to take you back or to refer you to what did the Secretary General, the United Nations Secretary General, in his very famous speech before the Security Council on October 24th last year, when he mentioned that October 7th did not come from a vacuum. It have a root for October 7th. Again, October 7th is a natural reflection of the Israeli occupation, 56 years of the Israeli occupation, 75 years of the expelling the Palestinian people from their historical land, Palestine, ethnically cleanse the Palestinian people from the historical land of Palestine. The question is, what is the cause of the October 7th? It's the occupation, it's the Nakba, it's what happened since 75 years to the Palestinian people, and unfortunately with many Muslim countries completely complicit in what is happening, or the atrocity that the Palestinian people face.
Right.
So that, again, October 7th is outcome of 75 years of
it is quite understood that the strife has been more than half a century, just like you've referenced, the 1948 issue where everything started on. And then some of the question has been, who exactly is Hamas and what's their end game? Because Hamas has been labeled a terrorist group, which Israel claims must be wiped out at all costs. And it uses that as an excuse for its bombardment of the Palestinians. But the question is Hamas truly a terrorist group?
The question is very, very important question. Did Africa considering Hamas a terrorist group? According to us and the PLO and the Palestinian Authority, of course, we did not consider Hamas at all, and we will not consider it so far as a terrorist group at all. Only Israel, United States of America, and the Israeli, the occupation club, as I used to call them, is considering Hamas saying that Hamas is a terrorist group. But let me just refer you for another very important example. Nelson Mandela himself was considered as a terrorist man by the apartheid regime, and it is supported, on top of them, of course, Israel at that time. So that the question is Hamas a terrorist group or not a terrorist group? Hamas is not a terrorist group at all. Hamas is part of the essential part of the Palestinian political fabric, and we did not, as a Palestinian, we did not conduct during our history, any type of terrorist act against Israel. All what did we conducted is a military resistance, and this is something that is completely acceptable by the international law and is completely acceptable by the United Nations itself and General Assembly. The question is, who's the terrorist? I'm pretty sure that if you dig a bit in the history of you take it more seriously, the issue, Israel is the terrorist state. Israel, and before establishing of Israel, there was many gangs, military gangs, Lehi and others, was designated as a terrorist gangs by the United Kingdom, the mandatory power at that time. On top of those gangs was two of the Israeli Prime Ministers, whom was wanted as a terrorist people, Shamir and
that definitely will be something that, lots and lots, especially you saying that Israel is the only country that recognizes Hamas as a terrorist group. Just yesterday or day before yesterday, the British government, Prime Minister was trying to, actually came out to said that to make us understand that there is a definition, a redefinition for what the concept of terrorism, which the Muslims in the country are already saying that it's just a way of attacking Hamas. But then, moving forward, let's talk about Israel's declared war goals, and this includes maintaining the 1948 borders and securing the return of hostages. In your view, have these goals been achieved, and what implications does this have for the current situation?
No, but let me back, because you mentioned that only Israel, or I said that only Israel considering Hamas a terrorist group. No, not only Israel. I said Israel and the occupation club. I mean, all the occupation supporter from the Western countries considering Hamas also as a terrorist group. So that, but by the end of the day, I already mentioned that even Nelson Mandela himself was considered as a terrorist man. Anyone resisted the old colonial here in Africa, you need just to back to your, as African, of course, to your history, you're going to find that all the people, all the leaders, the African leaders 70, 80, 100 years ago, whom is resisting the old colonialism, the atrocity, the unjust situation, they were considered, part of them, as anarchist people, murder, killer, and many other classifications. So that when it came to Israel, yes, Israel is classifying even every Palestinian according to Israel is a terrorist. Even President Abbas himself, the man who signed Oslo Accord himself, considering him a terrorist diplomat. But back to your another very important issue when you mentioned that 1948 borders. Do you know that Israel did not have an official map, did not submitted any official map in the United States, in the United Nations, so that Israel did not have a border so far, did not, even them, did not considering this, what did the Palestinian broke in is their border. And there is no map, official map to Israel. And I challenge anyone to bring, except the flag, their flag, but anyone in the world. So, any time that anyone can bring, or any Israeli can bring an official map to Israel to say that this is the border of Israel. Again, this is not the border of 1948. There is a lot of issues that we can discuss it in this regard, especially those border was extended more than what was designated to Israel in the resolution 181, or even in the Rhodes ceasefire agreement, so that this is not the border, and and this is according again to the international law. Back, I'm gonna stop here, and I'm not pretty sure whether you can, what is your exact question, because I really did not have the opportunity to hear you very well.
Okay, so definitely, let me quickly confirm whether you can hear me. Can you really hear me now?
Yes, I hear you, but there is some problematic issue in that, so that please.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll try to project and also make myself very clear so you can hear me. You talked about the map issue. We'll definitely talk about the two-state solutions, but we need to make our audience understand exactly what the issue is and what it has been and where we're heading. For instance, you, as do other Palestinians, have accused Israel of using propaganda to portray the conflict as a fight for victory against perceived enemies. How do you believe this propaganda has influenced international perceptions of the conflict, and what efforts are being made to counter it?
Thank you so much. Another very important question. Israel was built in a big propaganda. The main slogan that was the Jewish used it before 1947 is land without people for people without land. Anyone of your followers, or anyone is watching us just right now and just to Google land without people for people without land, he will find that the Israeli or the Zionist movement at that time, the Jewish supporter at that time, and the Jewish institutions all around the world, especially in the Western country, use this slogan as the big propaganda that we deserve because this land have no people on it. So that we as a people, we need this land and we should have it as a. So that when it came to the propaganda, yes, Israel is the master, or the big master of making the propaganda. And we unfortunately we did not have the opportunity to appear on the Western screens, in the different media, Western media outlet. Since 1948 and before 1948 to tell our story, so that all the narrative that was dominating the discourse before the revolution of the social media was in the favor of the Israeli themselves, and all of it is is full of the propaganda or occupied by the Israeli propaganda. For example, when it came to the two-state solution that you mentioned or talked about it, when it came to the propaganda about the two-state solution, Israel and its supporter, which is, I mean, the majority of Western country media outlet, is saying that the Palestinian is the main obstacle and whom is refusing the two-state solution. While today, day and night, we are listening to the current Prime Minister who is denying or who is refusing to hear or to talk about the two-state solution. So that when it came to the propaganda, we need many scholarships so that the student to come to dig about what is the exact meaning of the Zionist and the Israeli propaganda when it came to the Palestinian issue. So that Israel is the master of the propaganda on this regard.
Part of this is also you're saying that Israel may resort to using accusations of anti-Semitism to stifle criticism and restrict free speech, which some of the social media has actually, are actually, taking their own stance and banning and shadow banning other people who are making some of these voices known. But then, how do you think the international community can distinguish between legitimate criticism of Israel's actions and anti-Semitic rhetoric?
This is the very important, according to Shlomi, one of the previous. I stand to remember her name, Shlomi something, the Minister of Education of the Israeli Education, when she mentioned that this is our secret weapons. When it came, anyone criticize Israel, we have two types of secret weapons, which is to call him or to accuse him of anti-Semitism, or to accuse him of the Holocaust denier. And anyone being accused of those two accusations, he will lose everything in his life. And there is tens of historical professor in United States, Canada, and other Western country was losing, and completely they destroyed their life because they just raised their voice and criticized Israel. They accused them of anti-Semitism, and we saw what is happening in one of the very famous universities just a few months ago in the United States of America. So that this is the secret weapons that Israel is used every time for anyone to accuse him of anti-Semitism. Three classification Israel have it. For me, for example, as a diplomat, as a Palestinian diplomat, they considering me, of course, liar and a terrorist diplomat. Likewise, my president Mahmoud Abbas. For any Jewish who criticize Israel, like Ilan Babeh, Frankenstein, and others, they're gonna call him hate self-Jewish. For anyone, even if you now criticize Israel and it is occupation, you will be accused of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism, this is a big fake propaganda, and you can ask me for another interview just to discuss what the meaning of anti-Semitism and how it is very fake and very empty bubble. And I can assure you that I can destroy all of these accusations. There is a hate for a Jewish hater, yes, among the world, especially in Europe. But anti-Semitism, this is another issue. That the terminology itself, anti-Semitism, was created by the German 200 years ago, and there is a lot of issue to discuss when it came to the anti-Semitism.
Absolutely.
But I think it's not the exact time. Regarding the shadow ban and all of this stuff, yes, we are facing a lot of, in the social media, we are facing a lot of shadow ban. For example, our page, our embassy page in the Facebook, out of 14,000+ followers, unfortunately, when I uploaded anything, I did not even have sometimes one like or anyone to show it, so that we are completely shadow banned. Even my Twitter account is completely shadow banned. So that this is very important issue, and I would like you to, it might be very efficient and very important to have another meeting just to designate it to discuss the meaning of the
most definitely. Most definitely. I understand, there's so many issues, surrounding the, Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which war and genocide, as some we want to describe it. But then, talking about the Semitism and anti-Semitism and all of that is also a very broad range term that is being used to describe, what is going on between the Palestinian Arabs and the Israelis. But most definitely, I would like us to talk about the humanitarian crisis that this war has actually led to. But before we do that, let's quickly take this break. You're watching Standpoint. We'll take a break and be back to discuss more on this topic.
Stay ahead with the biggest news stories. Go beyond the news headlines. Experience impactful investigations. Enjoy resourceful news coverage in real time. TVC News at 7 and TVC News at 10 p.m. Live every day on this channel. TVC News. First with breaking news.
Voted as the best TV station of the year. TVC News breaks into the core of every event as they happen. Following all nationwide big and impactful stories. Without the news from every perspective. Covering every human angle. I am Veronica, bringing you the news you would want to watch.
You're watching Standpoint, and I've been speaking with the Palestinian Ambassador to Nigeria, AbdulLah Shawesh. We've been talking about the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian crisis, the war that has broken out since October the 7th after Hamas attacked some group of Israelis who were partying, leading to the death of 1,200 people. And this conflict has led to more than 31,000 Palestinians who have died, most of them including women and children. Thank you so much for staying with us, Mr. AbdulLah Shawesh. And now let's talk about the fallout of this crisis and this ongoing strife between your country and the Israeli Prime Minister and Israel as a whole. How does this does the Palestinian leadership assess the humanitarian situation in Gaza amid the ongoing conflict, particularly in terms of civilian displacement and access to essential services like medical care? I've watched several accounts of doctors who had been to Israel, talk about to Gaza, who have tried to perform surgery, etc., on the victims of this war. How has it been so far? What's your leadership? How are they assessing this?
Indeed, our priority, or President Abbas have many priorities. On top of that is to stop the Israeli genocidal war or textbook genocide against the Palestinian people. This is very important for us. And we are working, or President Abbas and his team, of course, and his government is working very hard with all the key stakeholders around the world to make sure that this should be stopped, or this gonna be stopped very soon. But unfortunately, by the end of the day, what is guiding the war is the logic of power, not the power of logic. And Israel is strengthening its muscles over the Palestinian people. This is the first priority for us. Second priority for us is to make sure that the Palestinian will not we will not repeat, or we will not allow the repeating of the Nakba. And Nakba, what is happening to the Palestinian in 1948, I mean, expelling the Palestinian outside Gaza Strip and West Bank, of course, to Gaza, to Egypt, and to Jordan, and this need a lot of work with all the key the key people in Gaza and in the West Bank. The third priority for the Palestinian Authority and the PLO, of course, on top of that, is to make sure that the humanitarian aids is reaching the people. But in this particular regard, you all witnesses that Israel is refusing and putting all the obstacles before the humanitarian aid to reach out to the Palestinians in Gaza, in particular in the north of Gaza. So that when it came to the humanitarian aids, unfortunately, the Palestinian Authority cannot alone do anything in this regard. We need only the UNRWA, we need the UN with its different arms and different bodies. We need the support from the international community to make sure that through the UNRWA in particular, through the UN in particular, UNRWA, I mean, all of these humanitarian aids to reach out to the people, because the UNRWA is the only and the more capable and acceptable UN body that have the capacity and have the experience to distribute and to make sure that all of these humanitarian aids will reach out to the people. So that when it came to the humanitarian aid, I think we need the international community to interfere again and to pressure Israel to allow the United Nations, in particular UNRWA, to distribute all of these type of humanitarian aids. Unfortunately, Israel is launching in a devastating war against this particular UN body, I mean the UNRWA, long time ago. And we witnessed just 2 months ago that they accused 12, or Israel accused 12 of the UNRWA staff out of 30,000, 12 of them to be part of the group whom attacked or invaded Israel on October 7th, and this make a lot of very bad consequences on the UNRWA, because many of the Western countries, on top of that, the United States of America was suspended its financial support for the UNRWA, and unfortunately this make the situation worse for the human being in Gaza. So that again, when it came to the humanitarian situation or humanitarian situation, it is we are in a very bad humanitarian situation, as you already rightly mentioned, but it is 32, approximately. We are talking about 32,000 innocent Palestinians was killed. 70% of them is children and women. The majority of the Palestinians is internal displaced person. The Palestinians, approximately 700,000 of the Palestinians, this is the estimation, is talking about 700,000 of the Palestinians still in the north. They are suffering in a daily pace of the hunger. Famine is there. Approximately, we are talking about 23 child was died due to the malnutrition and dehydration. Famine is the next to the door on Gaza. 8,000 Palestinians still missing under the rubble or missing by the Israeli. We did not know their final destination. Many of them was arrested, or it seems that 100 and maybe 1,000 of them arrested completely hide, and there is no information about them. Came from the Israeli authority or the Israeli occupation. But again, we are talking about 8,000 Palestinians still missing, part of them, of course, under the rubble. I'm going to stop here because when it came to the humanitarian devastating or humanitarian situation, I think the UN issued tens of reports about this issue, and it's a very accurate report. And all of these reports is talking about this is an unprecedented situation, even in the World War II.
That's right. You know, it's the Ramadan season, but then what the international, we'll talk about the role of international communities and definitely the way forward in all of this in resolving the crisis. But in all of this, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has approved plan for Army's ground operation in Rafah. What more impact do you think this would have on the ongoing war, very quickly?
Indeed, the Prime Minister is, and his cabinet, of course, he will not stop this war, because he knows that once this war is stopped, this means that he will lose his office, and his cabinet, of course, will losing their office, and they will not be going to be elected again. He will lose forever his political position. Not only this, there is a lot of investigation, and many of these investigation, we already know that he's already suited, or he have 3 cases before the court and most probably he will be jailed for all the 3 cases. With the October 7th, it seems that he will be for sure jailed and lose his political position. So that all of this war is just to keep his political skin, not more than that. This is not our opinion. Even the Israeli today is talking about that this war is with empty goals, and it's just to save him, to save his seat, not more than that. The Americans themselves, we witnessed 2 or 3 weeks and turning back from the American side to this particular prime minister, and we know that they became fully assured that this war not to accomplish any goal except killing more Palestinian and except saving his position and his political position.
Yes,
well, regarding Rafah, we all know that they expelled, or the Israeli occupation internally displaced the majority of the Palestinian people and took them to the south, to the border of Egypt, as part of their original plan to expel them to Sinai. But thanks God, of course, Egypt was stand very strong in this regard, and it seems that they blocked this this idea, or this Israeli idea. So the majority of the Palestinians today, even part of my family, my personal family, is locating or seeking shelters now and refuge in Rafah. We are talking about 1.5 million, something like that, of the Palestinian, very crowded, in less than 20% of the Gaza area, which is a very dense area before the war itself. Gaza is only 365 square kilometer.
We need to raise.
So that
sorry to butt in your line of thought. Because of the time, looks like Hamas is kind of talking, now and laying down its own demands. Can you help us provide some clarity on Hamas's vision?
Could you please come again, because I did not hear you.
Right. Okay. So I was trying to say that Hamas is trying to, if you could help us provide some clarity on Hamas's vision for a truce deal, including its objectives regarding the cessation of Israeli aggression, humanitarian aid, and the withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, which Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has described as ridiculous. So what's your response to this characterization, and how does Hamas view Israel's negotiating position?
Indeed, I'm here to represent the entire Palestinian people, the PLO, which is the sole and the legitimate representative of the Palestinian people, and to represent, of course, my President Mahmoud Abbas, and to represent the Palestinian Authority. When it came to the negotiation between Hamas and Israel, let me just take you back a bit before October 7th, who's giving Hamas all the authority and supporting Hamas to rule Gaza was the same exact Prime Minister, the same exact current Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu himself was providing the Qatarian money through Ben Gurion Airport and through the military convey, Israeli military convey, and to handle it in a suits to Hamas. This is very important. So that when it came to the negotiation, I think that both Hamas and the current Israeli Prime Minister know or negotiating directly before the war itself, and communicating directly through, of course, before this war. And now with this war, or with this Israeli war against the entire Palestinian people, there is a lot of negotiation, and we are used to hear a lot of news in the newspaper and other places. But let me just be very clear in this regard. What is happening between Hamas and Benjamin Netanyahu himself, not his team, because it seems that he's still talking in a hide channel with them. No one knowing what is going there, and no one is knowing what is happening in the negotiation between them. But what I hope is to put an end to this atrocity, to bring back all the Palestinian hostages. We are talking about 7,000 Palestinian was hostages abducted from their homes, prisons, and jailed in the Israeli prisons just in the last 5 months, and of course the Israeli themselves to back to their home.
That's right. So looking at the role of international communities, how does the Palestinian leadership view the role of international mediators such as the Qatar, Egypt, and the U.S. in facilitating negotiations between Hamas and Israel so that the Palestinians will have a reprieve at the end of the day?
When it came to the negotiator or mediator, we of course fully assure that Egypt, Qatar, and others, of course, will do their ultimate best in this regard. To be very frank, and I'm not from the president office or president first-hand aids, so that I'm not pretty sure what is happening there, but I'm pretty sure that is they are communicating with President Abbas in a daily basis, if not in a daily basis, negotiating and discussing this issue with President Abbas and his assistants, of course. I'm not pretty sure what is happening there, but I'm pretty sure that Egypt, Qatar, and others is doing their ultimate best. The main obstacles for any negotiation or any deal that came out from these negotiations, for sure, according to our experience, should be or will be Benjamin Netanyahu himself and the Israeli government.
I'm wondering whether you consider some of these, international mediators as, impartial, whether you consider them as impartial brokers. And I'm wondering also how you would describe the role of international communities, such as the U.S., Joe Biden, for instance, had its military to airdrop aids to the Palestinians due to the inability of foreign aids unable to reach the Palestinians through the land borders.
When it came to the United States of America, unfortunately, our experience with the United States of America is a very dark experience, very bad experience. Even with the airdropping, they are talking about the airdrop, but what is more important from the United States of America is not the airdrop. Even all the missiles, all the weapons, all the explosive material that dropped from the air is a U.S. manufacturer, and it was gifted to Israel. Washington Post, for example, is talk just maybe 10 days ago, 1 week ago, issued a report talking about more than 100 military deals between the United States of America and Israel in the last 5-6 months ago. So that when it came to the United States of America, another very, we know that the United States of America is not only complicit, is a full complicit of this war with the Israeli occupation. They provided them with the all munition and missiles and munition
but
explosive material that killed the Palestinian people. But I'm coming,
yes,
I'm coming, if you allow me. Then the United States of America,
Yeah, I was just trying to get...
The United States of America used five times the veto to block any resolution to put an end to this atrocity. So that when it came to the United States of America and what is Mr. Biden mentioned in the last few days, we likewise, how did Nelson Mandela one time or one day mentioned that we judge the people upon their acts, not upon their rhetoric. So that when it came to the what did he mention in the last few days, we have a very bad experience with the United States of America. The majority of the Palestinians whom killed on the hand of the Israeli, the majority of them is killed by the United States of America weapons gifted to Israel, whom is bought or whom is putting an end to this atrocity long time ago in the Security Council is the United States of America. So that, and this president in particular, so that unfortunately, our experience, our real experience with him is very bad, and we judge him upon what is happening, not what is he mentioning in the media in the very last few days.
Yeah, talking about the U.S., I was just going to tell you that Biden said, Mr. Biden said that that Israel has the right to defend itself, and also warned Israel not to, transgress by killing the younger ones, the women and the children, and all of that. But very quickly, because of our time, you're an ambassador of your country to Nigeria, and we've talked about the two-state solutions. We've seen what South Africa has done, at the ICJ. What do you want the Nigerian government to do for you?
Let me just very quick to say that Israel did not have any right to defend itself according to the international law. This is very important. Other issue we did, the Palestinian, unless Israel considered this as its border, so that in the international law it will be, there is another issue when it came to the international law if this is their border. And I'm pretty sure, and I can assure you, that Israel did not have an official map saying that this is its border. According, again, to the international law and to what did Mr. Biden mention, not only Mr. Biden and other Western supporters, Israel have a liability, not rights at all as an occupying power, and again, and under the international law. The other question that no one dare to ask it, does the Palestinian have the right to resist this brutal occupation? This is very important question, and they did not dare, and they will not dare and to ask themselves these questions at all, and unfortunately no one, even the media, did not have raised this question before. The question is, if Israel have the right to defend itself, the question is the Palestinian have the right to resist this brutal occupation according to the international law by all the means, and by all the means, of course. Regarding the two-state solution, this is something that we are ready. We were ready to it. We are ready, and we will continue to be ready to it. The main obstacles to the two-state solution is the Israeli government, in particular this current prime ministers.
Well, because
regarding your question of Nigeria and South Africa, we would like to, of course, to extend many thanks to South Africa, to the African people, especially in their very last African Union summit, and their there's very important support, and the language that they issued in their in the final declaration, or the final output declaration from the AU summit. It was very important. Regarding what we are looking to Nigeria as one of the biggest, and one of the, let me just say that at the very beginning, that Nigeria having a very heavy political weight, not only in Africa, but all around the world. And we still look to Nigeria and other African countries to utilize their political or very important political will.
Yeah, before I let you go, finally, before I let you go, if everything comes to an end, truce reached, arms laid down, and peace is restored, would the Palestinian people and your future generations ever forgive Israel following this current situation? Very quickly.
Come again, I did not hear you. Sorry, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I was trying to ask that, if everything comes to an end, truce reached, arms laid down, and peace is restored in Israel and Palestine, would the Palestinian people, I mean, talking about your future generations, ever forgive Israel following this current situation?
No, how do you want, we are talking about 17,000 orphans, widows, thousands of widows. They will not forget at all, and they will not forgive. It's a human, we are a human being by the end of the day. We are talking about raising the majority of Gaza, approximately 40%, and some statistics is talking about more than 40% of Gaza was completely raised, was completely destroyed. How come you want us to forget those, our homes, which some of us is spending more than 50 years to build this home? So that how did you, and not only the homes, how could you imagine that the Palestinian or the families that will forget, or the father will forget Israel and forgive Israel for killing 5 or 6 of his child? How that the orphan, 17,000 orphan, will forgetting that they are, some of them was lost father and mother, so that we have a lot of problematic issue. Even after the war, we need a lot of work to make sure that we work together with the international community to come up and to make sure that the Palestinian, at least, to have some just, to bring some just to their, to what happened to them in the last few 6 months.
I mean, we can only hope that there is peace at the end of the day between Israel, Palestine, and the rest of the world, because we're also facing the crisis going on between Russia and Ukraine. But then, Palestinian Ambassador to Nigeria, AbdulLah Shawesh, thank you so much for speaking to Standpoint on TVC News.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you too for your company. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Bye for now.